Hey, what is up guys, Ashbfc here, and in this video I'm going to take a look at some of my favourite boss fights of all time. See, I'm a 90s kid, grew up playing video games in the 90s, and pretty much every game I used to play back then, you know, they had boss fights. So yeah, I grew up loving boss fights. I mean, I played games like Sonic, Donkey Kong Country, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, you know, the list goes on, and they all had boss fights, and I loved them, you know, that format. Do a couple of stages, have a boss fight, a couple of stages, boss fight, final boss fight to finish the game off. But yeah, I've always loved boss fights, and they, you know, they carried on being great all the way through the 90s to the early 2000s and stuff, but nowadays they've kind of died out a bit, and you know, a lot of games don't have them, and a lot of games that do have them, they're not very good. They kind of just feel a little bit uninspired, and yeah, they just don't have that feel anymore to them like they used to back in the day. But yeah, so originally I had planned to do like a top 50, you know, boss fights, but I can't be bothered because it will take me forever to do. So I've taken a lazier path, and I've just narrowed it down to 12. Yeah, so they're not going to be in any order apart from my absolute favourite boss fight of all time, again because I'm lazy. Now it might seem a bit of an odd list, to be honest. It is quite a weird list when I look at it. I imagine not many people have this sort of list as their favourite boss fights of all time. But whatever, I mean, I'm basing them all on all sorts of stuff: the music, the story going into it, the characters, how it all played out, you know, the aesthetics of it, all sorts of stuff. And of course I'm throwing nostalgia in there as well, which I probably shouldn't do, but you know, whatever. So yeah, it might raise a couple of what the fucks, raise a few eyebrows, and there is 4 games out of the 12 on this list that are all from the same series, but they're just that damn good I had to put them in, so tough shit. Yeah, so let's get into it. Alright, so first up on the list is King K.Rool from Donkey Kong Country, the final boss fight of the game. And oh, I just love this so much. The first thing I think of when I think Donkey Kong Country, I mean, yeah, it's simple as hell, but you know, you had to be a 90s kid to truly appreciate this. I mean, back then these graphics were mind-blowing. And I used to always struggle with this boss fight as a kid, but he's actually really easy now when you know what to do. But he had a few tricks up his sleeve. He'd throw his crown at you, and that was your chance to jump on his head when that was the opening to get him. But then he'd run back and forth, and he'd do it a few more times, he'd get quicker, then cannonballs would rain from the sky, and then he'd start doing these awkward little jumps. You had to get under and then, you know, wait for him to throw his crown and do it again. But yeah, I used to really always struggle as a kid. But I mean, let's just stop for a second. Forget all that. Let's just listen to the music. Just listen. Could well be the greatest piece of boss fight music in the history of video games. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I just love the music. So goddamn good. But one of the really cool things about this boss fight, which I'd never seen before, was that he fakes his death. It makes you think you've beat him. Once you get him 3 times, he falls to the floor, Donkey starts celebrating, credits start rolling. Fake credits. Psych. Yeah. All the credits are like Kremlin names, all being with K and stuff, and then he gets back up and you're at it again, and I just thought that was cool. Only something, you know, rare I could think of back then, and yeah, great boss fight. I miss Rare so goddamn much. So yeah, that's King K.Rool from Donkey Kong Country. Alright, so next up it's Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, the final boss of the game again. Yeah, just unbelievable. Again, you know, you had to have played this back then, otherwise you're not going to appreciate the graphics. It looked mind-blowing back then, and better yet, you need to have, you know, played the game to understand Sephiroth's character and know what an amazing character he was and how evil he was, and you know what was on the line in this final battle. It was just an amazing, you know, just end battle to the game. Absolutely incredible. Just looked amazing. I mean, Sephiroth looked so goddamn evil and powerful and stuff, and all these amazing looking attacks he'd pull off in you using planets and stuff, and all the summons you had to throw at him. And this battle could go on for a long time, which made it that much more epic and, you know, satisfying when you did beat him. And I always struggled. I could never beat this boss without the Knights of the Round materia. Yeah, I could never do it. I have a history of going into RPGs, final bosses and stuff, under-leveled. But yeah, but it's just absolutely amazing. I mean, Final Fantasy fans know where I'm coming from. Just an amazing boss battle to end the game, and yeah, one of the greatest boss battles in RPG history, I think. I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. Amazing. Alright, so next up it's King Bowser from Super Mario 64. So yeah, you know, you did actually fight this guy a few different times, but they all kind of played the same with a few different tweaks, so I'm kind of just, you know, including it as one. But yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, the first time I saw Bowser in his 3D form and how big he looked, it was just unbelievable seeing that as a kid, because in the past all we've been doing was either jumping on his head or avoiding him completely and sending him into a pit of lava. But yeah, it all changed this time around, and it took me a while to figure out what exactly I had to do, but you got to spin him round by his tail and throw him. It was absolutely hilarious and amazing as a kid. I loved throwing him. Now, still all these years later, I'm still not entirely sure what exactly Mario says when he throws Bowser. I've seen this debated quite a lot. What I used to hear as a kid was, "So long, dear Bowser," but that doesn't make any sense. Why would he be saying dear Bowser? I've also seen people who think it's "So long, Bowser," in this sort of an Italian accent. I've also heard "So long, King Bowser," which I think it might be. And I've also heard "So long, gay Bowser." So, you know, different people, different opinions. But, what do you think? But yeah, it's crazy amounts of fun. I used to love throwing him off the edge as well. That was always fun. I used to really piss him off when you throw him straight off the edge. But you could actually kill him that way. But, yeah, just, I mean, the Bowser fights, they've always been great throughout the entire Mario series, I think. They've always been pretty cool. But, yeah, these ones from Mario 64, they're the most memorable to me. And, yeah, just brilliant. I mean, it was just unbelievable as a kid. Yeah, so that's Bowser from Super Mario 64. Absolutely awesome. And next up is a boss fight that only a certain genius called Hideo Kojima could deliver. It's the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. This was just absolutely incredible, and it was mainly the emotion going into this fight that I love so much, and the beauty of it. It was incredible, and again, you had to play the game to understand Boss's character, know what she's all about, and her relationship with Snake, and how much she meant to Snake, and how much Snake didn't want to have to do this, and it was a fight to the death in this field of flowers. It was just absolutely incredible. And it was a very sad boss fight, to be honest. It could actually be a little bit tricky as well, getting the timing down when she comes at you, learn to counter her attacks. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible. The whole story surrounding this boss fight was absolutely unbelievable, and yeah, it was just visually stunning to look at as well. I mean, yeah, it was a classic battle of a student versus mentor. It was absolutely brilliant, and yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. One of the most memorable boss fights of all time, and even me being the cold-hearted bastard that I am, even I hesitated towards the end, from pulling the trigger. It actually took me quite a while. I was just sort of, stood there just watching the screen thinking, holy crap. Yeah, just unbelievable, like I said, something only Hideo Kojima could deliver. So yeah, that's the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, like no other. And next is the Phalanx from Shadow of the Colossus, and I probably just pronounced that wrong, but who gives a shit. The giant bird is what I'm talking about. Now, Shadow of the Colossus, basically the entire game consisted of boss fights. They were just unbelievable. Now, I could easily have put all the boss fights in the video, but the Phalanx is the one that stood out to me the most. I mean, the sheer scale of this thing was just unbelievable. It was nuts. It was huge. I just couldn't believe this was being pulled off on a PlayStation 2. Looks even better on the HD version of the PS3, but yeah, absolutely incredible. I mean, like I said, the scale of this thing, but just chasing around on your horse was so awesome. That awesome boss music that kicked in during the game was incredible, and having to jump on its wing and climb up on its back, and then falling off it was kind of fun as well, or not so much if you kept repeatedly falling off it, which I did. But yeah, just right on its back, it was nuts. I mean, honestly, the first time I saw this, my jaw hit the floor. It was incredible. I couldn't actually concentrate because I was too busy staring at the sheer beauty of this thing. It was just wow. I mean, wow is basically the best way to sum up this boss fight. Just unbelievable. Yeah, and to me, the best boss fight in the game and one of the best boss fights of all time is just absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's the Phalanx from Shadow of the Colossus. Wow. Alright, and next up again from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, it's the end. Now this boss fight was so much fun and very creative and unique. Again, only Hideo Kojima could do something like this. It's basically a sniper battle against an ancient man. I mean, he's like over 100 years old, he's damn near dead. But it's so much fun, and when you don't know what you're doing, like I imagine for most people didn't on their first playthrough, this can take a long time, like hours. I mean, I could have been pushing like 2 or 3 hours finding this guy, because I could not find him. Because it takes place in the jungle and he has camouflage on, he's damn near impossible to spot. You've got to know what you're doing, which makes it that much more fun. Because I was just wandering around and I was just getting shot, and I didn't know where it was coming from, because he always switches position as well every time he shoots. So you can't just wander around in the open, you've got to be really careful. And the fun thing is you can use your directional microphone, see if you can pick him up, because he'd sometimes mumble to himself, and also because he was very old he would sometimes fall asleep, which was hilarious. and also sometimes his parrot with Squawk can give him away as well. And sometimes you just get lucky and accidentally walk into him, or maybe you just get lucky and spot him through your binoculars or your rifle, or other times maybe you'd spot his reflection on his rifle. It was just so much fun and very, like I said, very, very creative and kind of the ultimate sniper battle. But you could also sneak up behind him a lot, which was probably the easier approach, because you could use your infrared to see his footprints, so you could track where he was. It was pretty fun sneaking up behind him because he'd crap his pants. But a really cool thing they did as well in this is if you saved your game during the sniper battle and then you switched it off and didn't come back to play for over a week, he would be dead. He would die of old age when you put the game back on in this like hidden cutscene. It was absolutely hilarious, and you could also change the clock on your PlayStation 2 or on your 360 and PS3 in the HD versions to advance it a week, and you would die of old age. So yeah, very creative, very unique, and again, you know, something only Kojima could come up with. There's such an awesome boss battle, and without a doubt the greatest sniper boss battle of all time, and like I said, very creative and unique, and yeah. So that's the end from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Hells yeah. And next is an epic boss from an epic series. It's the Hydra boss from the original God of War. Now this thing is just nuts, it's insane, man. I mean, this is the opening boss of the game, imagine that. I mean, I'm sure when we all first played God of War for the first time and saw this boss, we knew he was in for something pretty special. It's just crazy. I mean, again, the sheer scale of it is just insane. My jaw hit the floor, it's incredible, and so much fun. I mean, you know, it's pretty hard as well, first time playing this. I played it about 2 or 3 times the first time around to get this thing beat. It can be pretty tough once you sort of learn its attacks and stuff. It's not too bad. But yeah, I mean, you've got the huge guy in the middle, the main guy, and then these 2 little cronies on the side you've got to deal with. You know, it's so much fun finally beating them and impaling them. Nice and brutal, and of course the final part takes place on the platform on the top, facing its giant head as it's trying to, you know, swallow you whole. It's like nuts, man. It's pretty scary. Look at this guy. And of course the quick time events in this are so much fun. You know, when it tries to eat you and you've got to sort of force its mouth back open again. It's just crazy. All these like crazy camera angles as well really made this boss fight, you know. Yeah, he was just crazy, and a pretty brutal finish as well. You can't complain. Just, yeah, epic boss fight from God of War. I mean, yeah, it's nuts. So yeah, that's the Hydra boss from the original God of War. Alright, so going back to basics for this next one is the final Robotnik battle in Sonic 3. And I just love this one so much. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, it's super simple again. Classic Robotnik fight. Jump into him a bunch of times to finish him. But I just loved it. Mainly probably because of the music. You know, let's just take them a second. Just listen to this music. Yeah, just absolutely epic. I can't decide between that and the Donkey Kong Country one, but amazing music. I love how it all goes dark as well in the background. It really does feel like the final battle, and it was pretty tough as well, was this as a kid. I mean, you know, there's a few tricks. He comes at you from all different directions. He's got these giant claws he can grab you with, and he's got spikes on his head, so you can't directly jump on top of his ship. You've got to kind of get the accuracy down to hit him right in the middle section, which can be a little bit tricky at first. I always found myself jumping straight into his gloves. A number of times I got to this boss fight and lost. God, I don't know, he used to infuriate me, but yeah, so much fun. He sometimes, you know, hovers around at the bottom as well, and he can be quite unpredictable, but yeah, I just absolutely loved it again, you know, because of the super epic music. And I love the little end sequences when you finish him. It all goes light again, and the platform comes apart, and you see the death egg fall in the background. I just thought that was awesome, and yeah, definitely my favourite boss battle in the Sonic series. Again, I know it's super simple, but I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's the final Dr. Robotnik fight from Sonic 3. Alright, so next up, another boss fight from the God of War series. It's Poseidon from God of War 3, and just like Hydra was for God of War 1, this is the first boss fight of the game, and it's absolutely nuts. It's ridiculous. I mean, just look at this thing. Yeah, it's nuts. It's still today, you know, the most visually impressive boss fight I have ever seen. It's ridiculous. The graphics are absolutely unreal. And it takes place over a few different sections, but when he finally reveals himself in his like watery form, it's just, it's mental, it's ridiculous. I could not believe what I was seeing. It's so goddamn impressive.
You challenge me, mortal? A god of Olympus?
It's a ton of fun as well. I mean, it's a pretty easy boss to be honest, but it's just so much fun. I mean, like I said, just visually, absolutely jaw-dropping. It's to me, it's easily the best boss in the series. It's just absolutely awesome, and it's so cool when you finally beat him, and then Kratos takes like the human part of him out of the boss, and you get to absolutely smash his face to pieces. It's so brutal, and gouge out his eyes, and yeah, it's nuts, so brutal, and just it's nuts. I can't believe it. It was, you know, it was too good for a first boss fight, because the thing is, none of the other boss fights could live up to it. It was too goddamn good. It's just nuts. I mean, I don't know if they could ever top this boss fight. It's ridiculous, but yeah. Yeah, so that's Poseidon from God of War 3. I mean, holy shit. Next is yet another boss fight from the Metal Gear Solid series. It's Psycho Mantis fight from Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation. And there's no doubt in my mind, this is one of the greatest boss fights of all time. Definitely one of the most memorable. I mean, it set the scene really well leading up to this boss fight with the creepy music that played. You knew something evil was about, and then the introductory scene to start in this boss fight was awesome when Mantis possesses Meryl, and then when he first appears flown in the air with his gas mask and his creepy voice and his, you know, his pasty white skin. It was crazy. He's such a creepy character, one of the greatest characters in the, you know, the history of the series, and such an amazing boss fight. And again, you know, very, you know, unique. Again, you know, Hideo Kojima. Yeah, it took me forever to figure out what I was supposed to do in this fight. I mean, because, you know, he has telekinesis powers and he can predict your moves. So you try and shoot him, he always seems to move out of the way because he's reading your mind. That's what used to happen was the screen would go black and it would just say Hideo in the corner, and I did not know what was going on. He was basically just taking over your mind. What you actually had to do was switch controller ports. So it was crazy. And when you do that, he wouldn't be able to read your mind. You'd hear him saying to himself in the fight, like, why can't he read your mind? You'd get him really frustrated. It was crazy. And you know, he's throwing things at you, like using his powers to throw objects at you, and then he starts disappearing and reappearing, using all his telekinesis powers, and then he possesses Meryl, and she's trying to shoot you, and you've got to knock her out, not kill her, which is a mistake I made the first time round, while still avoiding his attacks. Then he takes over Meryl again, and he tries to make her commit suicide, and you've got to stop that from happening. It's just crazy. And then when you do finally beat him, there's a really, you know, brilliant ending scene as well, which is quite sad and quite creepy at the same time. And yeah, just such a memorable boss fight. Again, you know, pretty different to anything else we've ever seen. And yeah, like I said, one of the most memorable boss fights of all time. It's nuts. So yeah, that's Psycho Mantis fight from Metal Gear Solid 1. So on to the next, which is from a series which is pretty well known for its amazing boss fights over the years. Is the final Ganon fight from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, and I love this so much. I mean, it takes place down in Hyrule under the ocean, which I just thought was an amazing place to have the fight. The scenery is awesome, you know, with the water pouring down and Hyrule's about to be flooded, and you know, it really does have that, you know, final battle feel to it. And you know, it's against Ganon, you know, the series' long-running antagonist. And yeah, it's awesome. You know, it's a classic sword battle, a duel going on there, and Zelda's there at the side helping you, which was kind of a throwback to Ocarina of Time when she helps you out in the final battle in that game. And of course, it's got the epic music going on, and it provides a pretty decent challenge as well. Yeah, it's just so much fun, and just, you know, such a great, you know, final boss fight to close the game. And it actually really shocked me at the end as well, because to finish him off, Link impales him in the head, straight through the head with a sword, which shocked me. I did not expect to see something like that ever in a, you know, a Legend of Zelda game. I mean, I know there's no blood or anything, but still, pretty violent for a Zelda game. That was awesome. It really did shock me. You know, that sword just goes straight through his head. It was just, wow, just completely, you know, caught me off guard there. And then, you know, it turns him all to stone, and there's a really interesting scene at the end. And then, you know, you get out of there as, you know, Hyrule sadly washed away for good. But yeah, again, you know, a very memorable boss fight, and it is my favourite, strangely enough, out of the Legend of Zelda series. I know many people would disagree with that, but, you know, whatever, I loved it, so there you go. That's the final Ganon fight from Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. And so finally, it's time for my favourite boss fight of all time. Can you guess what series it's from? Yeah, that's right, Metal Gear Solid. It's the final battle between Snake and Liquid from Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots. There is no doubt in my mind this is the greatest boss fight I have ever played, and most likely ever will play. Words can't describe how awesome this is. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, but unless you've experienced the series from the beginning to this, you know, this boss fight right here, you know, there's no in hell you're going to appreciate it. Better yet, you know, I think you'd have had to have played Metal Gear as a kid all the way back in 1998, and you know, played the series growing up, and you know. Otherwise, like I said, you're just not gonna. It's not gonna feel as amazing as it, you know, it would, you know, if you had experienced the series like I had since the very first Metal Gear Solid, and you know, just to see this here, this is the final battle. This was the end of Snake's story after all these years, and it had such an amazing build up to it as well. That the cutscene of Snake and Ocelot just beating the crap out of each other, just these two old men giving it everything they've got. The final fight. And it was amazing. I mean, you know, Ocelot's getting the better of him, and then that scene where he's smashing, you know, Snake's face in just absolutely stunned me. And then when Snake recovers and dislocates his finger and then screams Liquid at him, and Liquid screams Snake back at him, is truly one of the most epic moments I've ever seen in video game history.
Liquid!
And then when the fight does finally start, and they both inject each other in the necks with the syringes, and the old school health bars appear, which seriously nearly brought a tear to my eye seeing that. And then the boss fight from Metal Gear Solid 1 music kicks in, which, you know, and then it moves on to Metal Gear Solid 2 boss fight music, and then on to 3, the Snake Eater theme, and just all this nostalgia and memories just hitting in your face like a goddamn brick. It was unbelievable. And the fight itself just so much fun, so brutal, pulling off all these moves on each other. Strictly a hand-to-hand battle. I mean, just smashing each other in the face, all the sounds hearing the thuds and the bones breaking stuff, and slamming each other's heads into the ground. It was just so much fun. I mean, again, it was just these two old men, and it was just so sad to know this was finally it. Yeah, and then when it does finally end, and you know, the Snake, the Metal Gear Solid 4 Old Snake music kicks in. As you know, they're throwing their final last punches at each other, and you know, Snake finally gets the better of him and wins, and Ocelot collapses to the floor. And yeah, just a very epic moment without a doubt, but also a very, very sad moment to know this was finally it. And you know, I just, like I said, I don't think there'll ever be anything as good as this in my mind. It was just, you know, such a perfect, you know, final battle to, you know, finish the Solid Snake saga, and I don't think they could have done it any better. And it was just amazing, honestly. It means so much to me, just this final moment. But yeah, but like I said, if you're not a Metal Gear fan, if you haven't experienced since the beginning, it's not going to mean that much to you. So you've got to be a Metal Gear fan. If you are, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and know exactly, you know, how awesome this final boss fight is and what it all means and stuff. So yeah, that's my favourite boss fight of all time, and like I said, I don't think it'll ever be topped. Just such a perfect way to end the series. And yeah, so that was Snake versus Ocelot on top of Outer Haven, the final boss fight, Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. Just outstanding. Just, you know, in a league of its own. Just absolutely amazing. So yeah. Yep, so those are all my favourite boss fights. I know it's a bit of an odd list, but you know, they are just opinions, remember that. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you later.